No matter what happens in Washington, the NPR Politics Podcast is here for you. For the latest news, insights, and analysis from the election and beyond, listen to the NPR Politics Podcast.
I'm your host, Yolanda Wallace, and you're listening to Mother's War on Violence, 89.9 FM on WCBU. Thank you for listening audience. Today, our topic is on the effects of bonding. I have two very special guests in on our episode today. And I'd like to welcome them. Erin Miller, welcome.
Good morning, Yolanda.
Thank you. And welcome Kelly Gibler.
Thanks, Yolanda.
Good morning. And great. And I would like them to just introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about the things that they do. And then we'll jump right into our topic. Erin, you want to go first?
Sure, I'd love to. So my name's Erin Miller, like Yolanda had mentioned. I am the nursing supervisor for Family Connects here in Peoria County. We are based out of the Children's Home Association of Illinois. And, our mission at the Children's Home is really to help the kids and families that need it most. And we fall under the prevention service programming, where we're able to offer home visiting to families, doula support, prenatal education, support groups, lactation support, all sorts of great things in the community for new parents.
Awesome. Thank you. And then how about you, Kelly?
So I actually work with Erin with Family Connects. I'm the community alignment specialist. And what that means is that I just connect our families that our nurses are working with additional resources in the community, whether that be housing needs, food, material goods, mental health services, things of that nature. We just make sure those families have those resources, and we make those connections by doing outreach, working with organizations like yours, and just spreading the word about what we do for our families. We also build community for our families by having different groups.
Awesome. And today we're here joining our efforts together today to talk about bonding. The reason that I came up with this topic is because sometimes we're looking at children while they're walking around and things like that, and growing up, and then from preschool to toddlers to school agers and high schoolers and above, right? And even adulthood. But I have found that in working with families and working, in caring for my own children, that bonding is very important. I found that different levels and stages of my own life, when having children, it had a different effect. My relationships with my children are different. And so I just want to dive right on into our topic. And as you feel led to, each one of you, if you want to jump right on in. So let's talk about, when should you start bonding with those kids?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, even during pregnancy, before the baby is here, it's important to prepare. And that is, picturing what your baby's going to look like. How are you going to feed your baby? Where is baby going to sleep? Who is your support? Who's your network? Whether that's family, whether that's friends, surrounding yourself around other maybe pregnant or parenting support circles. All that is important early from the start.
Okay. And then how, if you want to tell me a little bit about Kelly, and then we'll back to Erin.
Sure. I mean, like Erin said, it starts prenatally, but even at birth, skin to skin, breastfeeding, those intimate moments you have with your baby right after they're born are very integral to bonding. I think a lot of moms and parents feel like once you have the baby and it's handed to you in the hospital that you're going to have this magical experience where you instantly feel bonded with your baby. And what we hear over and over again from parents is that's just not the case. So instead of feeling guilty, just having those experience of putting the baby to your skin when you're holding them, experiencing with breastfeeding, if that's something that you're wanting to do with the family, all of those things really help build those bonds so that you can have that connection with baby.
And shortly after birth, we do call that first initial hour the golden hour for many good reasons. Your baby's placed skin to skin where the baby is hearing your heartbeat. They are regulating their heart rate. They're regulating their respirations because they're near and dear to their what they know from the womb. And there's many, many, many benefits to that skin to skin. Initially after the baby's born and then continuing those first couple weeks of birth. That's very comforting for a baby.
That is awesome. And Erin, you do a course that to help with this, right?
Yeah, it's
What's
actually
it called?
a community effort. We started this about 5 years ago. It's we call it the Ready Set Baby prenatal information. And our goal is really to provide education and information consistently throughout the community where families are hearing about the benefits of, lactation and learning their baby's cues and managing pain, what to expect at the hospital at birth. All those things we talk about and help families prepare for so that they can make educated decisions, informed decisions, and really have the best start possible.
Okay. And we were talking, and then the next question was how, and we kind of answered that just a little bit. But I was going to say, I know we're talking about skin to skin and we're talking about breastfeeding. You can still bond with your baby with the bottle, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
You can still do skin to skin while you're bottle feeding.
That's
And
true.
there's so many parent interactions that are so healthy for babies. Talking, singing, reading, wearing your baby, with a baby wrap or carrier. Just engagement, having that back and forth, communication, verbal and nonverbal. Babies feel stress. When you're stressed, and so we really talk about maximizing the love and managing the stress. And sometimes managing the stress is what's hard to do, you know.
Which goes into our next thing, why it's important to bond.
Yes. So bonding, builds that foundation of the parent-child relationship. But like you said earlier, every baby's different. Every pregnancy is different. Every parent experience is different.
True.
And so just learning your baby, your baby's cues, and learning what's stressful for you, and acknowledging that and recognizing that and seeking support. And we always say it's always a sign of strength when you ask for help, and there is definitely help and support out there in the community, and that's what our main goal is.
Right. Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
I think Erin hit the nail on the head. It's those we see time and time again through a lot of data that children who have strong attachments to their parents end up having less trauma in their lives going forth, whether that be mental health, physical violence, things that are happening in the community. They are less affected by that when they have those strong parental bonds, and those start at the very beginning.
That is awesome. So when you were saying, Erin, about if you have conflict and drama and those type of things, and how we want to keep that from the baby, a good reason is to keep all that from the baby is so that, like you said, Kelly, that they don't experience the trauma so much in their, as they get older.
It's great for children to see parents be able to regulate their emotions as well. It's okay for us to feel anger and frustration and all the bad feelings around children. It's actually great so they can see how you regulate, how you come down from that, and that you still love them and that you still care about them while you're feeling those emotions. So it's not great to hide it, but it's also not great to come in full force when you're feeling those big emotions. But it's always great to talk to your kids, even when they're very young, about what you're feeling and how you're processing that.
Great.
And I think it's helpful during pregnancy to really understand like normal newborn behavior. Babies cry, babies wake up frequently, babies eat often. Those are all normal things. So the more you know and prepare, you can kind of build a plan in place for when maybe it is difficult to manage the stress, and you know who to reach out to, who are your circles of support. And through the Children's Home, we have a lot of programs, whether that's, having a home visitor that comes out. We have nursing programs for that health component. And then we also have a lot of parenting support groups. Kelly leads a parent and baby social group every week at the Peoria Playhouse, where you can just surround yourself with other parents that are going through walking those steps that you're walking.
And that age is 0 to 3, right?
So we actually, in prevention services, we have programs that work 0 to 3 and 0 to 5. What we do at Family Connects is with families, and generally we work with them the first month of birth, but my program, the Parent Baby Social, is actually for primary parents of children age 1 and under. So it's very specific so that you can come in and be kind of in that same tornado of craziness that first year brings to families. So everyone can kind of be there together. It's very peer-led, so they can bring their concerns, what they're thinking about to other parents, which is great.
Right. Okay, great. And then we also know that nature versus nurture has always been a big debate, and especially with Erik Erikson, the psychologist who, not psychologist, a psychosocial doctor has always had these theories about them and how much we are made up of, all of us, of, I think I had researched and seen that there was the University of Queens Island that had a study that says that each person is made up of 49% of nature and 51% of nurture. So, which means in layman terms, the nature is the makeup, the physical body of the eyes, the features, all those things that come with the child, and sometimes the attitude. And I've even learned that sometimes the way we learn kind of has some, nature things that go, we have inherited throughout, and then nurturing, the nurture side of it is your environment, which is very, very important, as we were talking about who your circle is, who's your support. Right. So anybody who's negative should not be in that area, because that can disrupt the bonding process of a child when he is or she is a baby. And later on, it can still cause some problems, as we talked about, Kelly, as far as, if you have, trauma or any of those other things that could increase the the situation, because the nurturing part of is the environment the mom or the dad creates for the child, even the environment for school, the social economic areas that we go to in church, or if they go to church or don't, you know what I mean? Those things affect the bonding and the nurturing and the nature of a child. And then what are the consequences of that?
Yeah, so I think it's important to acknowledge that we all come with experience. We all come with a background. We all have lived experience. And when you become a parent, sometimes, that brings up how we were parented ourselves. And it's one of those things that you either parent the way you were parented, or you decide that maybe you want to make changes and parent a different way. And so just having those conversations and really exploring, parenthood and, just gaining knowledge and being informed of, just what you're talking about today. How do babies get off to the healthiest start? How can I be the best parent possible? And, just seeking that circle of support to empower parents. And that's really our goal, to focus on those strengths and, carry those on because, babies from the start, have those foundations.
Okay. And how about you, Kelly? What are the consequences for not bonding with your child?
I think that I'm going to go back to something you said, which is when you have your different kids, more than one kid, you notice that you have different attitudes, different personalities, different boundary setting ways, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it takes a minute to realize that you can't parent child number 2 the same way you parented child number 1.
Right.
And what do you usually see from a toddler that you aren't maybe nurturing the right way, right? You're going to get some feedback. You're going to get, you're going to get some behaviors.
Yes.
You're going to get some, pushing of the boundaries. And that's kind of showing you when you don't have those, when you're putting expectations on yourself and your child to be a certain way or to act a certain way or, to fit into a box, you're probably going to see behaviors. You're probably going to see a disconnect from that child and wonder, what are they thinking? What's going on? And really, when you break it down, you just have to get to know your child. You need to know how to parent that specific child. It's going to be way different maybe from the way that you parented other children. And I think just in your home and when you look back on parenting, you're going to see the consequences of not having that connection right away. And I think that just grows. So as kids get more complicated and your relationship with them gets more complicated, the more distant that you are, the less bonded that you are, you're going to find it hard to kind of pull them back in when they are teenagers and explore pushing boundaries again, like they did when they were 3. It's harder to pull them back in when they're 13 and over than when they're 3. So just giving yourself grace and giving your child grace to figure it out together. This is the first time you're parenting sometimes and the first time you're parenting that child.
Oh, yeah. You're right. The first time you're parenting that child, oh, boy.
And those first couple years are so important. A baby's brain actually grows more from birth until age 5 than it will the rest of its entire life.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I
the
didn't know
talking, the singing, the engagement, the interaction, those are all so important as the baby's brain grows and develops, and you're developing, that bond through those parent-child activities.
Okay. Now, when we're talking about consequences and we see learning disabilities can be a consequence for not having the bonding relationships. And sometimes it can affect, the way they learn, the way they receive, the way they teach back.
Right.
All that type of stuff is affected when we don't bond with them. And like we talked about, each parent is at a different stage in their life, and whether you're with the other parent that helped create this child or not, it's the studies and success stories are mostly with the ones who are with that remain, have cordial, they can co-parent or they're married or whatever, for the best thing, the best choice that they make together about that child. A lot of times it can start before that child is even born, before we even get to that point, of this baby, and then I noticed there's autism, there's avoidance, there's abandonment issues that happen with the child that, those are some of the consequences that if you don't bond with them as a baby, these are some of the things that happen. Can you speak to that a little bit, Erin?
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to go back to just how vital it is to really, manage stress in order to maximize love. And that is such a hard thing that we're all trying to figure out how to do. But yes, those stressors that might be, very real and difficult to be the best parent you can be. We want families to know, there's mental health support available.
To help them get through, navigate some of that.
Right. So that way they really can maximize love for that baby and start that basic foundation through maximizing their love and managing their stress.
That's awesome. And how about the children with autism? Is bonding affected by that in any way, or
I don't know too much on that specific point,
Okay.
but what I can say is that when you are spending that time with your child from birth and on, you're getting to know them, you're going to be able to see if maybe there are some delays or things that maybe you do want to talk to your doctor about.
Okay.
Which is a really great moment. The younger they are and the
Right.
earlier you have those questions and bring them to
to
a doctor.
detect those things?
The earlier you can get them to early intervention services, which we do have an issue with a shortage of in this community. We have a lot of provider shortages in a lot of areas we need, unfortunately. But the earlier you get these kiddos onto a wait list for occupational therapy, physical therapy, feeding
Right.
therapy, speech therapy, things that are going to impact them later on, the better off they're going to get those services before they're 3. Because once they turn 3, they can't get those services anymore. So those early bonding moments in the beginning of baby's life and when they're a toddler are so important because you're going to be able to know if something is different, if maybe you're watching something, so that you can get those things taken care of earlier on, so that by the time they enter school, there really maybe isn't a problem. Maybe they
Right.
have gone past that. Maybe they're learning techniques already to help them adapt to the world that they're going to be in.
That's awesome. That's good news and information for our listening audience to know. And then I think about in today's world, we have teenage pregnancies and things like that. And this is still a good tool to help them. I can honestly say that I had my first child when I was a teenager and I was in foster care. So programs like The Good Beginnings was a resource for me to help me to, try to go back to school, to be in that environment that you both talked about, with other peers and people who were teenagers who were having kids and trying to do the best that I could with the situation at hand. But sometimes I find that, like we talk about at different stages that you are when you have each child, and the kids always argue that you treat me differently, or I wish I was, you don't treat us all the same, and each child is different, as we said, and then each bonding experience is different as well. When you're parenting, you're at a different state of mind. Why, that makes the world of difference. And then because sometimes there can be where you feel detached. The child can go through life having some abandonment issues. And a lot of times we don't know, looking at the grown-up person, where that started. But as I learned more about child development, and I went to Illinois Central College, and I majored in child development. So, and as I continue to watch that whole study of things, it really, really impacts a child's whole life. It keeps them a child well-rounded when their parents have bonded, or the parent who is raising them has bonded with the child when they were younger. It makes the child more secure, wouldn't you say?
I agree, and that's a great thing to point out. We're constantly learning new things. We're constantly learning, information about, best practices and healthy behaviors and benefits to do certain things a certain way. So sometimes when you look back, having a baby nowadays, there's things that have changed from when your parent
Of course.
had a baby, whether that's,
Even for me when I had.
exactly. Yes. Yeah. So just being real eager to learn, and be educated and informed, so that you, we always say you're the perfect parent for your baby.
Right.
There's no perfect parent, but you're the perfect parent for your baby, and really empowering families to embrace that.
And that is awesome. That's an awesome support that we still continue to need in our family. And Mothers War on Violence is intervention and prevention services for the programs we provide for our not-for-profit. And hopefully we can do some things in the future with you all.
Yes.
I know the Heart of Illinois Accreditation for Education for Young Children get together with the John Buckley Memorial Garden, which is a trauma healing informed space that's right behind the Riverplex. And people can just go there just to, maybe mommy and baby can go just take a stroll up and down. Walking is very therapeutic. Journaling. There's some things that people can do individually on their own if they would like. And, of course, listen to one of our podcasts that could be helpful in navigating some of these challenges that are happening in our world today. And so the more we educate ourselves and, even thinking about SIDS, and we're talking about bonding, but we don't want to smother the baby so much or go to sleep with the baby because that is a higher risk for things like that. And so
how do you manage exhaustion? How do you manage,
That's right.
bringing your baby close to you for comfort and feeding? All those things are
without
from-
harming them or smothering them or too much body heat or too,
Yes, all those are very common questions that we get from parents, and really normalizing. It's very normal to have those questions, concerns, fears, but when that fear and anxiety is maybe inhibiting you from being the best parent you can be, is when, ask for help. 1 in 5 moms experience postpartum depression or anxiety, and that is a big factor that plays into bonding and growth and healthy parenting too. So there's definitely help available.
Right. And when it comes to domestic violence and you have a baby and you're raising a child, it's good to seek out for help to help you learn how to navigate those relationships so that you're not doing all this bickering and arguing with the child in his presence, and while you're nurturing and pregnant and the baby's in preschool and in the younger years, which the baby is a sponge, because you ever seen those kids, and sometimes we would call them drama queens, and and really they would just be acting out what they've seen.
Where did you get that?
Where did they get
Yes.
So anyway, it's very important to look and seek for help. I thank you for coming on our show today, and I thank you for the resources that you provide in our community. And thank you, listening audience, for another Mothers War on Violence podcast. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.